Good afternoon. This is Ray Cool. I want to welcome everyone who's logged in for today's webinar. Important content today. I want to thank the Academy of Medicine of Cincinnati for co-sponsoring this webinar and for all who are in attendance for your attention. So our purpose today is to review how do you know if your security is working? Specifically, how does online monitoring work? How is that a useful and important tool for healthcare practices today? Again, my name is Ray Cool. I'm CEO of PBSI Technology Solutions. Thanks for joining. Our agenda is simple and straightforward. After a brief discussion about the problem we're trying to solve, we're going to look at what does it mean to have multi-layered security in place and what are the important elements of monitoring the security that you have in place. And then finally, really quickly, we'll talk about another tool in the arsenal, online backup, and how new technology has enhanced that. So I want to thank those in attendance who have been longtime clients of PBSI. So many of you are familiar with PBSI over years and years of healthcare, IT, and technology service. I want to thank you for your patronage. For some of you, this is your first exposure to PBSI. I want to welcome each of you. And for all of you who are members of the Academy of Medicine of Cincinnati, thank you for your support of the Academy, as PBSI does. So PBSI supports hundreds of healthcare technology clients, healthcare clients in various technology areas, including our discussion topic today, online security monitoring. So lots of staff at PBSI have years and years of experience in working in healthcare. It's from that knowledge that today we speak. So those of you in attendance today are the, quote, smart ones. You are the ones who know this is important information you need to understand. We all need to understand how to improve and how to monitor our security. So it's no secret to any of us that the internet has become a very, very dangerous place, increasingly so, almost daily new information. And it's frightening. Every time I see new information, I shake my head. LinkedIn, Yahoo, Gmail, DocuSign, Adobe, Dropbox, Tumblr, MySpace, and 30 others are all larger breaches this year than Experian. So this is a list that's maintained online, all of the largest breaches of the year, and it's mind-boggling. The largest one this year, 711 million accounts. Down the list here, to some that look familiar, MySpace and Adobe, you have to scroll all the way down. This is in size of breach sequence, all the way down to 7 million and something till you get to the number of verified Experian accounts. So this is a very long list, and the fact is it's simply a fact of life. Our emails and our passwords have been compromised. We must assume that. And so in light of that, what do we do to secure our networks and make sure that that security is actually working? So this screen is an overview of the total fundamentals of security. Today we're going to focus on just one part of this. So we'll mention but not delve into the fact that we need exterior setup, security set up with firewalls and packet inspection going on, wireless network controls, endpoint desktop controls that include antivirus and patch management, and controls on other areas of our network like switches and wireless access points and copiers, things that are all a part of the setup of security to try and prevent. So prevention is one key, detection is another. So the components of detection, security alerts that take place on a regular basis through online monitoring, vulnerability scans that are run regularly, daily, hopefully on each PC and each server, and data breach risk intelligence. Some of this is unique technology. I'm going to demonstrate some of this, but how do we know if something has compromised our network? It's something that most of us sitting in our desktops, we just have no way to know if there is a virus on our PC or anywhere else on our network. So online monitoring is our topic today. Very important, employee training. We won't talk about that today. And online backup, how do we know that our data is secure? So our focus today is online monitoring. And I'm going to now just quickly identify that those of you who were in attendance yesterday know that there's a lot of important information for employee security training. So I'm not going to cover that information today in email safety principles, but if you have questions in these areas, please let us know because we're happy to help and there's no charge for many of the things PBSI does to help healthcare clients be aware of how they need to behave in order to be secure. So focusing on online security monitoring. So we've put our security in place. We have our patch management, we have our desktop antivirus, we have our firewalls in place. Now, is it working? So among the topics here, online security monitoring is somebody, it could be done internally, but for most organizations in healthcare, it's somebody from afar, like PBSI or other IT vendors who have a monitoring help desk that pay attention to security alerts. So that's what we're going to see a demonstration of here in a bit, and some other components of this. The first thing I'm actually going to demonstrate, though, is I want to show you the depth of risk to which we're all exposed. What I'm going to demonstrate for you now is called an exposed password check. So PBSI subscribes to this security service that allows us to do what I'm going to do for you now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to query into the dark web. So the dark web you can't get to from your keyboard, I can't get to from my keyboard. I'm using a tool right now that we pay a monthly fee to be able to do this. I'm going to do a search and have it go look at our domain, pbsinet.com. So I could look at the domains for each of you, your own group of email addresses, and unfortunately I would likely find the same thing. So what you see here is a long list of real PBSI employees. There's my email, there's a bunch of others here, and what this shows is the emails that have been exposed with a password over the last 12 months. So the fact that one doesn't display a password simply means that it may not have been interpretable, but there's information that is out here available for sale. So how did these email addresses and passwords become exposed? It could have been through a keylog phishing incidents, but most of these are exposed, and the same would be true of your organization, because one of your staff gave information to a website that was purportedly secure, and that website got hacked. So the relevance of the previous content, that there are hundreds of millions of hacks, Experian recently being probably the most completely dangerous to U.S. citizens. But the fact is we all have to assume our email addresses are exposed out there. What does this mean? It means that our networks are all more hackable than we might think, because once somebody knows an email address and a password that this person has used in the past, then their ability to try that combination of email and login on various places, bank sites, Amazon, and inside of your own network, they become very dangerous. So if you'd like more information about how to find out which of your passwords have been exposed, we're happy to help with that as well. So my purpose there is to identify we are at risk much more so than we might think. So I'm going to now do a demonstration of online monitoring and what information we see from afar. So here is how you would know that your network is safe and secure or it's not. So what you're seeing on my screen right now is the monitoring dashboard that PBSI technical staff are logged into and looking at all day long during business hours. And in fact, the elements are being reported to this monitoring site 24/7, 365. We are actively monitoring and paying attention to alerts 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. But if we get an alert that says a server's been compromised or active viruses in effect over a weekend, we will get a notification, and frequently our staff will deal with things even during non-working hours. So what is this online monitoring actually? So to show you how this works, over here on the left-hand side, this is a list of PBSI clients and those that have varying levels of issues. So for purposes of this display, I've selected only PBSI. So when I select a certain client, over here on the right-hand side, these are all servers at PBSI. So I'm going to call this the north panel on my screen, and at the bottom, the south panel. So what happens is the monitoring dashboard reports the results of each server and each PC at every PBSI client that is reporting in the status of a few dozen elements every 15 minutes or every 1 hour, depending on how we have it set. So that means if you're a PBSI client, your PCs and your servers are reporting into this dashboard, and the results are displayed. So when I select a server in the north panel, here are the things that we are monitoring in the south panel. So I'm going to select one particular server at PBSI. our site concentrator, and we're going to look at some of the things that are monitored. So internet bandwidth is monitored. We can see whether your bandwidth is acceptable or not. We can drill into the detail over the last 24 hours, over the last 8 days, so that on any particular issue, outgoing bandwidth, we had one spike here that was likely a large file upload. And so some of these things are predictable, and we say, okay, we see the history. I'm not trying to turn anybody into a technician here, but what I'm doing is identifying that from high-level information, the technician can drill into history and detail, so for each event. So the key things that we're monitoring are critical events, security events, in this case, failed logins, one of the most important, because if there's an attack going on, which happens much more frequently than you might think, this no failed logins would turn into thousands or tens of thousands of failed logins as an attack takes place. So we're able to see that from afar, and there's no way you would know this sitting at a PC in your office. Performance monitoring, here's something. Technicians generally are paying attention to green, yellow, red. And in this case, there's something related to performance on this server that I could drill into if I wanted to, but it's not red, it's not a critical item. So we're also seeing other things on a network, like here is our phone system. I could get more information about this, but the phone system not under attack, everything seems all normal. The UPS, a couple of UPSs on our network that we have backing up critical things. We're seeing the status of batteries, and the UPS is actually reporting in every 15 minutes, and instead of needing to hear a beep or a red light flashing that could be ignored, we see online, and this is really useful in some cases if your UPS, uninterruptible power supply, is important, it's backing up your server, you need to know. And so the whole concept of online monitoring is end users at PCs, and I include Ray sitting at his PC. We're too busy, we're doing other things. I do not want to have to monitor what's going on my PC, so the idea of somebody monitoring it on my behalf is really useful. So we can see the status of switches. So you may not know this, but one of the things, we know if the fan's working, if the power supply is working, and we know about port locks. So this is an arcane detail about security, but port locks actually is an important thing. A port lock could happen on a switch. So you have a switch with 18 or 16 ports. You have 16 different ports that could lock. That could be one port that fails. That would send a notification. Or more importantly, in our case, switches are smart today. And if a PC acquires ransomware and starts pinging the rest of the network to see what it can find and see what it can send to other places on the network, it starts using traffic, sending traffic through the switch at a much higher rate than is typical of that PC, and so it gets locked security-wise automatically. So sometimes this isn't fast enough for ransomware, but if a port is locked in this manner, we get a dashboard notification that says, hey, there's a port lock. It may be a faster notification than a virus showing up on a PC where a scan is only done once a day. So in the same way, firewalls, other network devices can be monitored. So we're looking at hardware things. Is the disk full? Are there any disk failures? We're looking at Windows issues going on. We're looking at performance issues. And key, we're looking at security issues. So that's true with servers. It's also true of workstations. So hopefully I'm not boggling your mind with too many details here, because I'm not trying to turn anyone into a technician. What I'm trying to do is identify that there's things going on at a PC that you just wouldn't know about unless you had some way of paying attention. So online monitoring is a way for this to work. So what I just did is I looked at workstations at PBSI, and then I sorted down. I only want to see those with the name Ray somewhere in them. So there's my Microsoft Surface. This is my PC that I just selected right now. This is the desktop that I'm sitting in front of as I'm speaking to you. So when that is selected down here at the bottom, here are the current status of security activities and performance activities. Ray sitting at his desk has no idea about these things going on or not going on. So the monitoring dashboard technician sees these things. So what can be drilled into and learned? We can see the status of antivirus on Ray's PC, and this will give the threat history and what's happened with detection and disinfection and so forth. And this stuff happens. There was something disinfected on my PC on October 7th. I never knew about it. It was never an issue. It happens automatically. We can see the status of patches on my PC, and this shows here was a patch that was attempted, and if I were a technician, I would say reprocess that one. So patches, you may know, are really important to keep up to date so that security flaws, once they've been fixed, can't be attacked by a hacker who knows about that security flaw. We need to have these updated in more or less real-time basis. So the example that I just gave here is something that the desktop user, Ray, would never know at his desktop that there's an Adobe Acrobat update that failed. There's no way for me to see that. So monitoring technician can do that. They can see what hardware and software is installed on Ray's PC. They can see, generally speaking, what they're looking for is all these checks: failed login attempts, performance issues, antivirus up to date. So monitoring is really useful, and we find multiple times a day we're aware of items either at servers or PCs at clients' offices where we're taking care of things and never even tell them about it because it came up, we handled it, it's done. And then other cases where it comes up, we think the client should be alerted, we're handling it, but we make them aware. So we can monitor web activity on Ray's PC and which websites and how much bandwidth is being used. So some of this is used not as a big brother thing, but as a proactive effort to, I shouldn't say proactive, it's a reactive. We can drill into history and see, well, if performance has been slow, is there something going on with, is there a process on Ray's PC that is going out to the web and trying to do things that he doesn't know about? So this is online monitoring. Now I'm going to move back to PowerPoint just for a moment. I want to move on and just demonstrate another component. It's a separate thing, but included in online monitoring. PBSI uses this product that does a patented risk intelligence scan on each PC and server on a network. Really useful thing. So the background on this, we help clients do security risk analyses. And we've done this for many, many years. And we know firsthand all kinds of clients where the security risk analysis is done. And one of the components is, where is my PHI, my protected, unprotected, actually electronic information on my network? Is it on my C drive? Is it on the transcriptionist PC? Is it on the office managers or the billing staff who might have downloaded a report? Where is that PHI? And basically, we don't know. And the only way to know, historically, is go to each PC, sit down, try and look at the files and folders on each PC. It's an impossible task, and one we find at the end of the day, virtually everyone, when they're doing a risk analysis, says, we've done our best, we think this is right, we hope this is right. So far as we know, there's no other unprotected exposed data on our network. Well, this risk intelligence scan can find out in one fell swoop across your entire network, and it's quite inexpensive to have done. It will scan for HIPAA compliance, PCI compliance, and end up doing a proactive scan each night to find incidents where there's unprotected, meaning unencrypted social security numbers, credit card numbers, dates of birth, driver's license numbers, all kinds of data that a hacker might find valuable. So I'm now going to go and demonstrate this. So on Ray's PC, I chose a tab called Tasks. Among the tasks that are set up to run on Ray's PC, again, Ray doesn't know about this, this is happening at night, is a data breach risk scan. So I'm going to look at this, and we're going to find out what was found on Ray's PC when the scan was run last night. So a technician would not go in this manner to investigate Ray's PC. There's a high-level dashboard that says of all of the thousands of PCs we scanned last night for all clients, here are the highest incidents of unprotected data. So what did it find on Ray's PC? It found what it considers to be $1,400 worth of exposed unencrypted data. So the key here is that $1,400 an accurate number? No, it really isn't. There's an algorithm. I don't know exactly what the calculation is, but every piece of unprotected data it finds on Ray's PC, it says has a value because it knows on the dark web, each set of data has a dollar value, and if you have just an email address by itself, it's probably not worth anything. Email address and a password worth more. Add a social security number, add a date of birth. Each thing you add adds to the value of that unit of data. So on Ray's PC, it found what it thinks is $1,407 worth, and further it tells the technician what it found. So this is a tool that once we run a scan, it allows us to see on Ray's PC, it found in the documents folder this file called sample file with dummy SS numbers. Well, sure enough, I keep that file out there for this scan to do this exact same thing and find this every night, which it does. It found 4 Social Security numbers, which are accurate. They're in an Excel table. Now, these are dummy numbers. They aren't real numbers. And a date of birth. That's exactly what it found. And if it had found hundreds of these, then the dollar value of what it found would be higher. So now that we know that file is there, we can delete it, we can encrypt it, or we can move it. And that's basically what happens every night. So there's another file on Ray's PC that has 2 dates of birth, and that in fact is the date of birth of my son and my granddaughter. So it's data I'm willing to put at risk, and it found that on my OneDrive. So when we run a scan like this, it's shocking to almost everyone what it finds. It finds data in recycle bins. It finds data in email attachments. It finds archived Outlook attachments from 5 years ago. It finds files in documents folder where the predecessor of the current employee at that PC that had the own file set created left in their documents folder 10 years ago, and it still sits there. So no one sitting down at a PC would find these things, but if a hacker had an electronic tool like the one we use, they could find this data. And so what we're trying to do with this scan is identify where, and if I showed you the high-level list of the most compromisable PCs and servers, you'd be shocked. There are many that are in the millions of dollars, and it's a daily basis. We're communicating with clients saying, oops, you have some information that just showed up on a PC. What do you want us to do about that? Or what do you want to do about that? And so here, if you have this kind of scanning in place, and we do this for $3 per month per device, including servers, $3 a month per device, you have absolute documentation that you have a HIPAA auditor. You can say, we're not only protecting our network, we have a process running daily that identifies compromisable data. So if you are audited and found to be lacking, the fines are potentially very large, and it's really inexpensive documentation that can help you know for sure what data a hacker could find if you were to be hacked. So that's risk intelligence scanning. The last thing I'm going to demonstrate is online backup. So online backup is becoming more and more popular within the community of computer users. We have learned that all online backup is not created equal. We changed to this secure online backup program some time ago when ransomware became more and more prevalent. This online backup is protected from ransomware. So the way this works is we can set it up on any server or any PC. And what you're seeing here is a green line above each of the last 30 days. That green line means there was a successful backup on that day. Any day where there was completed with errors or unsuccessful or no backups, you would see a different colored line. So we can look at a big picture and say the backup's been successful every day. We can look and see on this day, here are the things that were backed up. So I hover over that day and it tells me which files were backed up and how long that backup took. Well, the fact is each of these days it did 2 backups. The first thing it did was back up to an external drive, and it encrypted that drive. Then that encrypted data was backed up to the internet and separated. So here's why. A PC gets infected with ransomware. It tries to extend to every other PC in your network and every shared drive to which you're connected. That's generally what all ransomware does. There are variations. They're not all the same. When that happens, it tries to encrypt everything it encounters. So, and we've had this happen, unfortunately, to a small handful of clients that didn't have the kind of protection in place. And in fact, in some cases, all network files were encrypted. So do you pay the ransom? What are your choices then? Well, here's what this backup does. Since the backup to the removable hard drive is encrypted, the ransomware can't get to it. So if the server is completely destroyed, then at least you have a protected backup that's there on site. And then separately, you have a backup for each of the last 30 days that you can go to the website, and PBSI could do this for you, or clients can manage this yourself. Generally, people want your IT staff taking care of backups and recoveries. It's something that most people don't want to be responsible for, and understood. So we could look at the details of each backup and restore. We can go to any given day and recover certain files. We keep the last 30 days for every single file, or the last 3 copies of a file whichever is longer. So if you have a Word file of policies and procedures that's updated once every 6 months, then you'd have the last 18 months worth of that history of that policies and procedures document. So online backup, what this does is it allows you to know that your data is secure and protected, and that's the reason we link this to online monitoring. So this is a summary of online backup and what it does. So we promised this content would be finished within a half hour, so I've gone quickly over some of these, but in summary, online security monitoring is a process that it doesn't matter who does the monitoring. It can be your IT company, it can be PBSI, it could be if you have somebody in-house who has the right tools, they could be doing this themselves. The difficulty of anybody doing it in-house is that it's simply something you have to remember to go look at, and online monitoring is really most relevant and most useful when it's really monitored all day long, every day. So online security monitoring, data breach risk scanning to find, and you can do one of these without the other. We looked quickly at the dark web exposed password check. So if you'd like to find which of your email addresses have been compromised and are available for sale out there, let us know. We're happy to help. And we looked at online backup. So I want to thank you for your attention today. We're finished with content. I just want to summarize. Every time we've ever seen a breach, it's always a surprise. And to have that happen and think, oh no, I meant to have some documentation about what our processes were. I don't want to have to face an auditor asking about this breach with the tools we currently have in place. You simply have to be proactive. So thank you for your attention. Again, this is Ray Cool. Appreciate your attendance. I hope today you've learned something valuable, and hope this has been useful to each of you. So now we're finished with content. Thanks for your